Kia ora, Jose. Great to get this time with you as part of this busy recording session for this interview and chance to ask you some questions about the Musicality program. Can you tell us what's been a peak learning for you about Latin American music from this LATAM Cape Musicality program?
Yep. Peak learning, I think, definitely for me was just learning about all the different styles of music kind of spread across Latin America, some of which I've never heard before. And then, of course, learning about all these kind of different instruments that they would use. It's all very interesting, very nice to know about.
And from that, in terms of what was something that was really challenging for you during the program?
There was definitely some aspects of the kind of long distance collaboration stuff that was a bit challenging, like trying to compose an entire section of the piece online via Zoom was a bit challenging. But then it's also the fact that I've never really composed anything collaboratively before in this kind of capacity. So kind of working with other composers, try to find something that we all kind of like to do. It's been very fun to do, don't get me wrong, but there have been some challenges involved there as well.
So it's been a real journey, huh?
No,
to get to this point, clearly. In terms of a light bulb moment, as I said, this moment of outright inspiration, thinking, wow, can you talk about that moment or any moments like that?
I think when, like I mentioned before, you're learning about all these kind of different styles I've never heard before and learning about all these different instruments and the roles they play within Latin American music, I felt that's kind of brought forth all these kind of like possibilities to my mind as to like how to incorporate these aspects of the music into the compositions themselves. That was very, very fun, very kind of inspiring to learn about.
So a good menu of opportunities and things you can choose from in the future.
Yeah. I'll tuck those away in the compositional vault for now. I might tap into later on.
And so also you're a Filipino New Zealander, is that what you call yourself?
Oh, yeah. So I'm originally from the Philippines, yeah. So then I moved here about 11, 12 years ago by this point.
So do you think there's inspiration from your Filipino side as well that you're bringing into this?
I feel there's this kind of common thread with obviously the Philippines being like a former Spanish colony and a lot of kind of these more traditional Filipino musics being kind of informed by the folk music from Spain. And of course, as that kind of commonality with like Latin American music being influenced by music that the Spanish brought in there. There's lots of guitar stuff and similar kind of plucked string instruments.
So interesting to see what happened to that in Latin America, but as you're drawing on from the Philippines as well, and I guess in this Asia Pacific setting.
Yeah. Wow. So it's this kind of this cultural clash, and it's kind of trying to bring all these influences kind of together to make kind of one thing.
So how have you applied what you've learned on the Musicality program? How have you applied that learning since we did the workshops last year and mentoring sessions and so on?
Right. So I've actually since picked up a few other projects that have called for some kind of influence from some other kind of non-Western musical traditions. Like I've composed some music influenced by lots of traditional Japanese music and music influenced by some Indonesian gamelan. So certainly the experience that I had during this program that required me to kind of tap into these kind of Latin American influences and put it into my own music. I've applied those kind of same approach to these projects. It's been very fulfilling, very fun to do.
So you're definitely drawing a lot of strings in terms of world music, global music, all your influences and drawing that together.
No, certainly. That's been a big thing of lots of the music I've been making lately, I think.
Exciting. And tell me, what's your experience been like over these couple of days with the rehearsals yesterday and into the recording day today? How's that been going for you?
Oh, it's been very cool and exciting. I've never really been a part of a professional kind of large ensemble kind of recording setup that you block like a whole day off to do the whole thing. So it's been very cool for me to do that for the first time and be able to kind of have the score in hand and witness like all the stuff just kind of happening. Yep. And all the kind of being able to kind of give feedback to the performers and then like them giving feedback to me about like, you know, maybe we could try this thing instead. It's like, all right, that sounds really cool. So I'll do that.
Nice creative process. With that end result for this beautiful audio and the film we're making. Okay, so can you tell us what's your hot tip or advice for other young composers about Latin American music and composition that brings together these Aotearoa New Zealand styles? In your context, you're bringing a lot of global stuff, Filipino, and brings it together with Latin American music styles and traditions. Yeah. What's your hot tip for young composers and even musicians who may not ever come close to this? What would you say?
I think there's like a degree of open-mindedness that you kind of need to employ when approaching a project like this, and then maybe just kind of latch on to like some few kind of things that are similar to the two things you're trying to kind of amalgamate. Like for me, it was like the guitar, because I grew up in the Philippines, lots of kind of Spanish influenced music, and then I play Spanish style guitar anyway. So I definitely lead into that aspect of when I was composing my section of this project. So kind of finding these kind of common elements that kind of bridge the gap, if you will, between what might be two kind of separate musical cultures, and trying to kind of bring them together and stuff.
This syncretization, so you bring in all those influences and melding them into something new.
Well, exactly, yeah.
And towards Latin America, any fingers crossed about being able to physically travel there or even digitally?
I think I've been talking with the other guys about definitely planning a trip to Latin America when we can at some point, just because I think after this entire project we've all been very interested in traveling over there to actually like witness the kind of music we've been learning about for the past kind of year and a half, kind of live firsthand.
Great. Well, you've got some great composers that you've been working with and mentors over there, so I'm sure that, as we're calling it, the blue highway, the pathway over there is very strong, so good luck and thank you so much.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. It's been a great pleasure to be able to kind of participate in a project like this.
Kia ora. Gracias.
Yeah, muchas gracias.